What's happening? How's everybody out there in listener land? You are live on Riot Starter TV. Today, I'm your host, Kalonji Jama Changa, for those of you who are unaware. We're here with a very special guest. But first, I want to say that we're honoring a couple great people today. The first person we're going to be honoring is a legendary musician. You know what I'm saying? A poet, a freedom fighter. You know, by the name of Gil Scott-Heron. Gil Scott would have been celebrating his 72nd born date today. You know, so since he's not here, we're going to celebrate for him, and you know, we're going to make sure that from this point on, we don't allow any more of these days to go by where we don't celebrate and commemorate, you know, our people. You know what I mean? So today, in order to lay it out right, what we did, we reached out to one of our favorite people, you know what I mean, a fellow musician, a brother who was a part of the Midnight Band, who recorded and performed a lot of different tunes with Gil Scott-Heron, a renowned, world-renowned musician himself, who's played with everybody from Stevie Wonder to Taj Mahal, but not only just a artist for the sake of art, a freedom fighter. You know what I'm saying? A veteran member of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Also a former political prisoner himself. He was a co-defendant with folks like Dr. Bilal Shakur and Mary Buck, and a number of other different folks. He's also the coordinator and the Amir for the Imam Jamil Action Network. You know, I can go on and on with you know, with his bio. He's one of the brothers, one of the freedom fighters that I admire most, and I want to just welcome to Riot Starter TV, brother Bilal Sunni-Ali. What's happening, Bilal? What's happening?
Yeah,
How you doing? Can you hear me? Look.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, okay. We see your picture. You may be frozen. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can't see myself, but I'm. Yeah, thank you, Brother Kalonji, for inviting me on. Appreciate all your listening audience, your watching audience. I'll do my best to do whatever it is you have me do here. We're going to talk about Gil Scott-Heron, and we're going to talk about Imam Jamil.
Absolutely, Bilal. You're freezing up. You're freezing up. So if you could, let's maybe log out and log back in, because for some reason you're freezing up and you sound like it's a robot thing going on right now. I don't know if you can hear us well, but we're going to take you out and bring you back in if that's cool. Peace. We're gonna work on that technical difficulty with Bilal. We couldn't really hear what he was saying, and he was frozen up. So hopefully he can log out and log back in, and you know, we'll make sure that that's right on the right side of history. One of the things that he was talking about was we're definitely going to we're speaking on Gil Scott-Heron, but also Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H. Rap Brown, one of our leaders and freedom fighters. He was the Minister of Justice for the Black Panther Party, and he also was the chairman of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. We're going to check back with Bilal real quick and see how that sound and audio is going. And, you know, we appreciate your patience again. Bilal, how are you looking now? Let's have you log out and log back in, because we're still not getting any clarity from your side. Yeah, we can't hear you at all. So if you can just log back on, that would be the move. Okay.
So you say go off and come back on?
Yeah. If you could do that, just log off. Yeah, log off all the way and then come back on, because it's nothing but static coming through.
Right. I'm going to try.
Okay.
I've had experiences with StreamYard. I think StreamYard may have something against me, but I never get on. I stay.
So stream. Yeah.
Go back. I start to talk. I go backstage. So
Okay.
I don't know right
well,
now.
We'll try to log off.
Or if you want,
I hear you now.
Log. Okay. Even you, when you talk.
Yeah, just log out and log back on, Bilal.
It breaks. But I don't know what you're saying, but I hear you back.
Yeah, so as you can tell, we're having some technical difficulties. We're going to have Baba Bilal log out and log back in again, and see if we can get that right. Again, we're commemorating Gil Scott-Heron's 72nd born date. We're going to pause for the cause for a second and come back for you and make sure we can get Bilal's technical difficulties in order. Appreciate your patience. Let's try this technical thing one more time. We back again. Going to bring Baba Bilal back on and see if we can do what we need to do. Appreciate y'all.
Okay,
Bilal, how you
here.
doing?
I'm doing
man,
much better now.
Okay.
I'm doing much better now. Yeah.
Man, you sound a lot better, man. Sound like we was in a can or something, man.
Yeah, I was. I guess I was reminiscing. You know,
No doubt.
like one of Gil Scott-Heron's songs says, I'm doing fine. I could have been doing time.
Hey, man. Well, we glad you ain't doing no more time because, you know, we got enough of that going on right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we definitely want to welcome you to the Riot Starter TV and the Black Power media audience. You know, been knowing you for quite a while, following your work, working with you, learning from you. You know what I mean? The whole nine. You and Ifulani, you know, rise in power and continue peace and blessings to Ifulani. You know, another true freedom fighter. You know, you two definitely exemplary when it comes to family. So we definitely appreciate that. Want to jump right in, man. It's 72nd year born date of one of your brothers and comrades, Gil Scott-Heron. You know, so yeah. So wanted to definitely back you on that.
Yeah, one of my favorite brothers. Today is his birthday, and like Gil himself would say, you know, don't let that bother you, because he says he knows a lot of people that was born on December 25th, and none of them was Jesus.
None of them.
So today just happens to be his birthday.
No doubt. So let me, you know, for the audience and everything, you know, without me giving my 2 cents, because of the fact that, you know, it's like secondhand smoke when I talk about Gil Scott. To me, he was always one of, you know, my favorite cultural workers, for lack of better words, my favorite artists, one of the favorite movement people that brought a soundtrack to us. You know, who was Gil Scott-Heron to you, and how did you all, you know, connect?
To me, we connected first. We connected first at Olinville Junior High School. He came. I think he was coming from Tennessee, and in New York City at that time, they do it other places too, but when in New York City, because we're supposed to be so advanced up there, when you came from down south, they would put you a grade behind. But Gil, he was writing detective stories at the time. So he was smarter than most of the teachers. None of the teachers had books out or stories out. But what they were saying, because he was from the South, that made him less prepared to deal with the work. They put him in what they had a section called pre-vocational. So it was like you could be in the academic class, you could be in general education, and then you could be in vocational. That means you was going to do something. You was going to do something with your hands. It wasn't going to be intelligence that was going to be your career, that was going to bring the bread on your table. And so he was in the pre-vocational. So that's what that's just the upset of the thing of the system. Like I said, he was already an author at that time. We didn't hang together in junior high school. As a matter of fact, he reminded me of it when I joined his band, you know, because I was famous back then. You know, at 13, me and Tony Duncanson, who was a conga player, percussionist in the Midnight Band, we were both playing. And at 13, you know, we was neighborhood famous, and he wasn't. But we all got to get back together when he was going to Lincoln University, and several comrades of mine that were going to Lincoln University that I had played music with were playing with him. They had a group called Black and Blues. Him and Victor Brown and David Barnes and Brian Jackson were in that group. He was a songwriter primarily. He was a songwriter, and he wrote. He wrote for them, and they asked me to. I was in the Center for Higher Education at Soledad, California. Many of you may have heard of it. And as soon as I matriculated back to the streets, I started playing with the band. I went and sat in a couple of times, and he asked me to join the band, and I did, and I've been, I stayed with the band. I'm still with the band now, even though the band doesn't get together. I have a band called the Spirit of the Midnight Band, where we play the music of Gil Scott-Heron and the songs that we played when we were with the actual Midnight Band. It's members of the Midnight Band and members of Amnesia Express. If anybody can remember what that's all about.
So what I mean, like, what year was this? Because of the fact that I know you said you you graduated from Soledad.
1972. I came home in 1972, and in February of '72, and I guess by April, I was sitting in with Gil. I know we were doing mostly college campuses. At that time, we were playing with friends of ours that were in college, or friends of ours that were either going to school or teaching at schools. That's how most of our gigs was coming about. It was all about friendships and relationships that we had with people that were in the struggle and that were in the school, and that we were trying to raise consciousness of people. And that's basically what we were. That's what we were all revolutionaries. Not every single person in the band. There's a couple of people that wasn't all that revolutionary, but they were definitely down with the music. But how I got in the band was with musicians that I knew that were revolutionaries that hooked up with this group, Black and Blues, and then we all started playing together. And I don't know, it evolved into what now is been known as the Midnight Band.
Right on.
But it was a revolutionary unit, and the purpose of it was to make ideas get to the community that wouldn't get to the community through books, because people wasn't that hip on picking up a book to read, but they listened to an album.
I mean, that's wild that you say it was a revolutionaries who happened to be in a band, more or less. You understand?
Right.
Often
a band of revolutionaries.
No doubt. the band of revolutionaries. That's hard body.
Right.
So I mean, we know that throughout the years, you all traveled the globe. You know what I mean? You were on like things like Saturday Night Live. There was a popular Saturday Night Live episode where you all and Richard Pryor was on there together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why is it that you think that right now the music of Gil Scott and the Midnight Band, isn't really like at the top of the charts? You know what I mean? Because when you talk about hip hop and rap and just soul, it's like and quote unquote conscious music. Folks think of Marvin Gaye and they think of the Last Poets and Gil, but with Gil and the Last Poets, it's kind of like a second tier type thing. You know what I mean? When it comes to the masses, is that by design or?
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, the industry is by design. How you get known in the industry, it's by design. It's by hit records. At least it was back then. I don't know how you get a hit right nowadays, because everybody can produce their own album and release it. And I don't know how they become hits. But back then, because your record was the most popular, that's where you would be placed in the pecking order. So fortunately or unfortunately, I got to meet a lot of giants, like Rahsaan Roland Kirk, Elvin Jones, Stan. We got to meet them because we had hit records. So we would be the headliners on the show for these cats who we were learning from. But we would be the headliners on the show because we had a hit record out. The Bottle was a big hit. Stayed a big hit for a long time. It might still be a big hit. I don't listen to radio that much, but I'm sure I know whenever we play it, people act like it's a hit right now.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. By you having a hit record, that would determine what your pay scale and the order and in terms of who headlines the show. So like I said, we got to meet a lot of giants in the business because we were headlining shows for them instead of opening for them. We were headlining shows for them.
That's heavy. You mentioned the Bottle. A lot of the music seemed like it was, not really was. It's relevant today. Whitey on the Moon. Revolution Not Be Televised. Hatred is home is where the hatred is. When you turn that on, man, it sounds like right now. You know what I mean? And I would always tell folks, it's like it's amazing, man. How did that quality? How did you all maintain that quality? How did that come about? It seemed like it was genius, and almost before its time, but it was right on time.
Okay, it was we didn't do anything special to maintain that quality or to have that sound that everybody liked. We just played music that we honestly felt people should hear, that we honestly enjoyed bringing to the people, and that was what we brought to it was our level of honesty and approach to it. And we didn't have any gimmicks or anything to say, oh, if we do this to people, the people gonna really like it if we do this, if we use this beat. We just brought rhythms that we thought were exciting because a lot of us were into African drumming. The people that was in the group that I played with, like I mentioned, Tony Duncanson. He was a childhood friend of mine, and all through life he was. When I met him at 12 years old, he understood West African rhythms. When I met Ade Knowles, may Allah be pleased with his work, he passed away about a year ago, and Brother Charlie Saunders and Barnett Williams. We were all into the culture, play records, but they were all into the culture in terms of playing music for African dance troupes. And that's what I played music for. I played flute with a lot of groups that played for African dance troupes, and so we were into the culture. So that's the rhythms that we played, and we.
You froze again, Baba Bilal. Hopefully it'll catch up.
We came up with
Okay, I see. Baba
We
Bilal's
learned
having.
about, and yeah, and
Okay.
that way the people enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, it was the honesty, and the integrity that we presented.
You mentioned that you all were revolutionaries. How important then was political education in the works? Was that at the forefront? I know you said y'all didn't have no special mixes or whatever, but it seems like with a lot of the music there was politics in it.
Yeah, well, political education. That's what we were doing. It was like a form of political education on stage. We would bring it on stage because a lot of people who were in political formations, uh, like myself, I had been part of the Black Panther Party. I didn't know it was part of the Congress for Racial Equality. Also, Charlie Saunders, he was part of the Congress of Racial Equality. We were in formations that held regular uh, political education classes, and what we transformed that into songs that would be political education. When people listened to the songs, they would hear it, so it would be just like a political education class for them. They would hear it, they would be educated, and that would be the thing that would make them want to come back to the concert, because it had moved them and it educated them, and they used the information they got in life. And people would come up to the shows and tell us about that. As a matter of fact, some people would say that some people going to college, they would say that they owe their PhD or they owe their master's degree to us, because as they were going to school, we were the ingredient that was helping them get through school. As the school was giving them some truth and a lot of falsehood, we was giving them the straight truth, which would be the balance out that would keep sane in order enough to allow them to finish their classes.
No doubt, no doubt. One of the viewers had a question they wanted to ask. Who were some of the major musical influences who inspired you all in the Midnight Band?
One of our direct inspiration was Oscar Brown Jr. Oscar Brown Jr. For those who don't know the name Oscar Brown Jr., Google it. We used to say go to the library and look it up, but now people start Googling it when you mention the name. So if you Google Oscar Brown Jr., you'll find out that he was an artist, he was an activist, and he was I believe he was a member of the Communist Party, and a black communist. Very
Right.
very very important to say. That there were a lot of black communists in the movement at the time who were leaders in the community when we were growing up, and the time when we had formed the band.
Right.
Oscar Brown Jr. was one of them, and another person, although he had gone by then, who was from the same community where we were, that's the community of Harlem, was Paul Robeson, who had preceded Oscar Brown Jr. And
Right.
and along with those political influence were the cultural influences. Like I was studying improvisation with Dr. Yusef Lateef at the time that I was playing with the Midnight Band, and Dr. Yusef Lateef was a close associate of John Coltrane and Baba Baba Olatunji, Baba Tunde Olatunji. The three of them were partners in music and in business, and they were doing revolutionary works in the community, and so they were our inspiration, and they was our leaders. They created one of the first cultural centers that I knew of, and that a lot of people knew of, was the Olatunji Cultural Center for African the Olatunji Center for African Culture, and that was a big center that people learned dance, learned language, etc. Learned about how to be African, in fact,
Right.
Or at least how to talk African, and how to dress African, and how to
I
dance
love the
African.
part.
But in doing that, you would learn the customs. So you would,
Right.
in learning the customs and learning the culture, you would learn to be because a lot of us we weren't in African because we didn't really know how, especially if we were stranded up in the northern northern urban areas.
Yeah. You
In the
mentioned
South, people knew how to be African.
no doubt, no doubt. You mentioned two giants, Oscar Brown Jr. coming out of Chicago. Bitter Man was a classic to me coming up. You know what I mean? I always thought that Bitter Man took it home, like on that whole.
Oh yeah, Bitter Men. Yeah.
Yeah, Bitter Man. Yeah, Bitter Man. Yeah. So with Bitter Man, and then then and Paul Robeson. I think that Paul Robeson is one of the most underrated when you talk about not only artists but freedom fighters. You know what I mean? The war they waged on him. And his international stance. He's definitely a model. So y'all had some serious, shoes to fill. You know what I mean? And yet, it seems like it fit perfectly. It seems that it fit perfectly.
Yeah, but we were definitely trying to fill them. They were definitely our heroes, and in many ways, because one of the things, especially with we weren't that up close with Oscar Brown Jr., but Paul Robeson. I mean, it was still like if you were in the area, you were being watched because the FBI was watching his house,
Right.
his building, everybody in the building, everybody in the projects, everybody around. So it's like, if by being in the neighborhood where Paul Robeson and his family was, we were all under surveillance. So we understood that was part of being in the movement, that the enemy would be watching you.
Right.
So you had to watch yourself.
I want to since we're talking about this, I mean, you're like a walking African revolutionary encyclopedia. You know what I mean? It's like for the audience that's not familiar.
I think so.
Yeah, I interviewed you back in
They're not
2005.
familiar with encyclopedias.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, a walking African Google.
Yeah.
How about African revolutionary Google? How about that? Yeah, Google. That's crazy. But I interviewed you back in 05, I think it was. And we talked about, and not to get off topic, but I think it's important because of the fact that we're talking about freedom fighters and art. And this particular interview we did was around the Shakur clan. And to this day, that interview has been cited
right.
in a
Yeah,
number
I
of different
remember
books.
that.
Yeah. I mean, to this day, I've opened up different books, and that interview, they've used excerpts from it. For as a nugget and a jewel, if you could tell the people how the Shakur clan came about, because they hear about Tupac, they hear about Asada and Afeni and Matulu, but there's no history. Can you touch on that, briefly if you could?
Well, the history it always begins with our father person. He was actually the blood related father of two Panther leaders, Zayd Malik Shakur and Lumumba Abdul Shakur. But he was a leader in the community. This is El Haj Saladin Shakur and his wife Mariam Jamil. They were leaders in the community. They had a store called Haj's Hut, which was it was named after Hajar. If you who study the scriptures know that Hajar was the wife of Abraham. That's the person that the season of Hajj. When we go to Mecca to perform our fulfill one of the obligations, one of the pillars of Islam is that you travel to the city of Mecca. We're there in the city of Mecca. They used her name, Haja, which was a black woman, and her son. They used the actual travails, the actual things that happened to her and her son. Those are the rites that we go through when we go to make the Hajj. And so this was the name of his store. So this was one of the main things that he was teaching us all the time as you go to the store, as you go work in the store, etc. And besides that, he used money to help develop the struggle, to develop the Black Panther Party. He because he was a merchant and a good merchant and becoming an affluent merchant, he was able to give money for the development of the Black Panther Party on the East Coast, and to help bring unity between the party when the party was seeming to split. But this is the man, Haji Shakur, as he's most known by, but his full name is Saladin Shakur, El Haj Saladin Shakur. That's where we say it started. He wasn't the first person to name Shakur, but in our struggle for liberation and independence, many of us that galvanized toward him because of what he was teaching. He was teaching Islam and he was teaching revolutionary Black nationalism, which is what we as children or as young people needed to hear. And so that was how it began, how many of the people that considered him our fathers. Matter of fact, we referred to Haji Shakur as Abba. A lot of people in the community, they called him Haji Shakur, but there were a group of us who called him Abba, which means father. Those of us who called him Abba, we were family with him. He had adopted us, not through any court system or anything like that, but through his love for us and his steering us in the right direction. El Haj Saladin Shakur became, in fact, the father of many people that was involved in the revolution. As a matter of fact, the police would call you Shakur, even if you didn't have that name. Like, I never took the name Shakur, right, but they would call me Shakur. It was a brother in Philadelphia, the leader of the Black Panther Party in Philadelphia was a brother named Reggie Shields. The police would always call him Red Cool because they identified with who we identified. They realized that he was the inspiration for us, and that's where it started. So Afeni Shakur was married to at the time that Tupac was born. Lumumba was not Tupac's father.
You're freezing up right now when the Jews are coming.
But
can you repeat what you said?
She never married Tupac's father. Marriage was to Lumumba Shakur. I said, Afeni Shakur never married Tupac's father. She got married to Brother Lumumba Shakur, who was the son of Saladin Shakur. And so so that extended the name. Lumumba had already had two children, two twin children, named Dingus Shakur and Sexual Shakur. They and then with Tupac, that was another son. So they became the first. They became the third generation of Shakurs. So the second generation of Shakurs was not only Lumumba and his Zayd, but also the many people that were in the Panther Party and in the Black Liberation Movement who were practicing Islam and putting the two together, saying that Islam demanded that we take a stand against oppression, and standing against oppression and fighting on behalf of the oppressed was something that Islam called for. So when he explained it to us, and more not just explained it, but demonstrated it to us by how he took care of us and how he used his money to strengthen the development of revolutionary communities. That's where the Shakur clan started. Then Brother Matulu, later on, he took on the name Shakur, and then after Afeni and Lumumba got divorced, Matulu married Afeni, and he raised Tupac from that point on. He raised Tupac, and before we know it, Tupac became famous, and the name Shakur became famous. It was already famous amongst a whole lot of people that were already involved in the struggle, but it became famous amongst the everyday person because now a person with a hit record, we could talk about hit records and how that influences people. That here was a person with hit records named Shakur, so everybody got to know about the name, and a lot of people began taking the name, not because they understood the works of Haj Salahuddin Shakur, but just because they wanted to take the name of somebody famous that they identified with.
Right. I want to.
So that helped us. That was because we would explain what Shakur meant now that they got the name.
Right. One of the things you mentioned Zayd Malik Shakur, and Zayd Malik Shakur was murdered by the police on a turnpike in a case with Assata Shakur and Sunni-Ali Akoli. Can you speak a little bit on Zayd Malik Shakur?
Yeah, Zayd Malik Shakur was he was a cultural icon himself. He was our older brother, and he was a tailor. I remember that was one of his biggest contributions in the movement at that time, was he would make African clothes. A lot of people are familiar with the album. Here I go again using those ancient terms, but it was the album of music. Now it's a CD called Karma by Pharoah Sanders, and Pharoah Sanders has on this pretty African outfit, and Zayd is the one that made that outfit, and Zayd was the one that made a lot of the clothes that many of the cultural icons in the community were wearing at that time. Zayd was responsible. Zayd was responsible for making them. A coat with a hood that was reversible, so somebody could see you walking down the street with this pretty outfit on, and then the next thing, you got on a gray outfit, but it was the same outfit that. But it was very useful to us at the time. Plus, it was
plus it was useful in other ways because you couldn't tell what you had with you, whether you had a water gun or whether you had a water hydrant. They could tell what was under the coat. So this is one of the contributions of Zayd Malik Shakur, was that he was a tailor, African tailor, and very instrumental.
He was a revolutionary.
He was the Minister of Information.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a revolutionary, and he was. There was this whole concept of if you are a revolutionary, and a lot of people didn't, at least on the West Coast, they had the idea about when you were cultural, they would call you a cultural nationalist, as if that's the type of nationalist you are. But Zayd was a great revolutionary nationalist, not a cultural nationalist, but he was well versed in culture, and he was not only a cultural icon but a cultural worker, such as myself. I was definitely a cultural worker, but a revolutionary nationalist cultural worker, and that so we represented a difference to a lot of people that was studying about revolution, but didn't see, but hadn't had at that point, until they met us or met people from the East Coast. They didn't see how the two together. The way we lived, they could see how the two things went together.
Right.
My thing is saying low, but it's saying 10%. How much time we got? It's 10 minutes. It's 10%. It's 10 minutes. I'm
10%. What we gonna do is we're gonna
10% battery remaining.
Okay. So what
I got another iPhone that I can power. That's powered up, and I can go click that on and come in on that.
Okay. I tell you what. You want to go ahead and do that or what?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and grab that.
Okay. Cool. So
grab that.
So
let it fade out.
Okay. So we'll take you off of here in a second, and we can go ahead and just come in on the same link. All right. Cool.
Okay. All right, for sure.
All right. Cool. We're listening to Baba Bilal Sunni-Ali. You know what I mean? Not only an artist, for lack of better words, but a freedom fighter who has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of information. We're grateful for him sharing with us today some of his experiences and some of his politics. Right now we live in a society where folks pretty much, praise the artist. They praise the entertainment, praise the entertainer. They're excited about, standing next to folks at the Grammys, or they're excited about, standing next to a rapper or whoever the flavor of the month is. You know what I mean? But one of the things that, that the comrade is talking about is basically being a revolutionary artist. One thing that Che Guevara spoke about was, he said the role of the propagandist is just as important as the role of the guerrilla. You know what I mean? So it's important that with whatever quote unquote artists that we have that's supposed to be representing the people, they should represent the culture, and it should also come with with some jewels that we can grow from, we can grow with. If you all have any questions or comments or whatever, feel free to leave it in the comment box. We'll be taking questions soon. Again, we're talking to Bilal Sunni-Ali, a freedom fighter and a musician, historian, and I can attest to the fact that he's someone that's not just rapping for the sake of rapping. Here on Riot Starter TV, we're looking to bring you live one-on-one interviews. I want to bring in folks who you might not ordinarily hear from, or folks who have, who is benefited in some fashion or form. Right now, we're around whatever's popular. You know what I'm saying? So, we always hear so-called super popular cats. Now we want to hear from the folks that's about their life. One thing I learned from organizing, and I've been organizing over 30 years myself at this point. One of the things that I learned is that oftentimes the quote unquote popular folks, put in less work than those who have been behind the scenes. And there's so many folks around the globe, so many freedom fighters who have contributed, tremendously, and without a hashtag, without a, social media, you know what I mean? Having to go out there, and look people in their eyes and touch the people, with their heart and their spirits and their minds. So, we're definitely grateful that we have folks like, Baba Bilal here dropping these jewels today. It's unfortunate that, oftentimes with this quote unquote technology situation, when some of the best jewels are being dropped, it goes in and out. We had a similar issue yesterday with we had our brother Daruba Ben Wahad on, but we're gonna cut through all that. Again, we appreciate you all for being here, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what I mean? Listening to what it is we're rapping about. So, definitely, keep on support Black Power Media. Black Power Media is a powerful tool. You know what I mean? Black Power Media is here for you. So we're looking to bring on more shows and not just, the same old. You can look for like cooking shows and a little bit of everything. So we're gonna be putting it on for you. So anyway, I'm about to bring Baba Bilal on again. Remember, if you have any questions or whatever, leave it in the chat box, and we'll roll from there. Bilal, how we looking?
Oh, okay, we're looking good. We're looking good. I got another iPhone.
Okay. You doing
iPhone.
better than me, man.
I got an iPad. Yeah. Yeah, the eyes have it.
You up on technology better than me these days, man.
Well, I have these things, I have these things, and what I do, I leave them off. The reason this one is charged up 100%. At least I thought it was, but yeah, this one's not charged up all the way either. But but we got some time on it. It's not going to flash and say.
No doubt, we're not going to get shut down. So check it. This is what I want to get into. We're definitely going to go into Imam Jamil, but before we go into his case or whatever, you spoke about being a member of the Black Panther Party. One of the things that we've been stressing as of late is supporting our political prisoners. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we know that back in around 81, 82, you were a political prisoner yourself. And a couple of your comrades, can you speak a little bit to that and let folks know about that situation, and then we'll move on to Imam Jamil.
Okay, in 1981, I was involved. I had been involved since I guess the mid 70s in a program at Lincoln Hospital, and we were. It was a drug program. It was a mental health program that was started. The Young Lords Party and the Black Panther Party and other revolutionaries in the South Bronx area took over the nurses' residence of Lincoln Hospital to establish programs for the community. Mental health was a big issue at that time. We had people walking around the street babbling, like they talking to themselves. People do that now, but they have earphones on, and we assume they're on that they're listening to some music or they're talking to somebody. But people were talking just as loudly and just as forcefully, and just as animated because the healthcare facilities of the state were closing down, and there was no care being given to many of our people who were suffering. So drug addiction was one of those aspects of mental health that we dealt with. The state was into giving out methadone, and the pharmaceutical companies were into selling methadone as a substitute for heroin. It was a thing that was much harder to kick than to get rid of your habit. It was much harder to do that with a methadone habit than it was to do that with a heroin habit. Not to say that heroin habits were easy to kick, but the methadone was much harder. And we came up with a solution to that. We had a methadone maintenance program, and we turned that into a methadone detox program. And what we used to detox people was acupuncture. There's a movie out right now called I'll send you the link to it so people could get back in touch with Kalonji and get the link to this movie. It's called Dope is Death. And it talks about the program that we were running at Lincoln Hospital. And Dr. Matula Shakur was one of the doctors at this program. So I mentioned the movie because there have been people who have been trying to take credit for the program and trying to take credit for acupuncture being proliferated throughout the community and throughout the country. But it was actually a revolutionary program designed to get our people off of drugs, to detox our people off that deadly drug methadone that is responsible for acupuncture being proliferated and being taught, and people are making good money off it now and not giving credit where credit is due. So if you see the movie, in the watching of the movie and in the making of the movie, Dope is Death, people became aware of the fact that they had been hoodwinked. So they have this program called the NADA, the National Acupuncture Detox Association, and the NADA protocols. They have to admit that the NADA protocols are actually protocols of a revolutionary program that was designed to get our people off of drugs. So the truth has been told, and so all of that's being adjusted. Dr. Matula Shakur, who's been a political prisoner all this time, is now being recognized for his pioneering efforts in solving solutions to drug abuse. And he became a political prisoner, and I became a political prisoner because we were under attack. We were under attack because we had directly taken money out of pockets of big pharma. They were making lots of money selling methadone to the state, and the state would keep our people hooked on methadone rather than hooked on heroin. And so that was what directly led to us being political prisoners. They claimed that there was a lot of other things going on, but they have no evidence. Just like in the case of Mumia Abu Jamal, just like in the case of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, they don't have one shred of evidence that I or Dr. Matulu Shakur or Brother Sekou Odinga, just some of the people who were involved in that, who were defendants in that case, they don't have one shred of physical evidence to link us to any of the so-called crimes that were committed. But because we described the crimes, because we talked about the crimes in a revolutionary way, they charged us with it, because we said people have a right to perform expropriations. people have a right to perform expropriation, to take money from those institutions who have been systematically robbing the Black community and robbing the Black nation, that we have a right to use arms to take money. Because we stand up for that right, they want to say, oh, then we must have did it. They ain't saying we did it. As a matter of fact, when they asked me, when they captured me and they asked me, was I glad I did it? I said, your mother did it. So they stopped asking me. They stopped asking me about it. But actually, we explain ourselves, and we're not ashamed to explain ourselves, and we're not ashamed to give revolutionary definitions for revolutionary activity. And that makes us revolutionaries. But they try to say that that's criminal. But that doesn't make us criminals. That makes us revolutionaries, but that don't make us responsible for doing the acts that we're able to define. Anybody in the community can define those acts as the same way that we do. And it don't make you criminal because you can do that. So that's why we were political. That's why we were political prisoners, and why Dr. Mutulu Shakur is still a political prisoner.
Right on, right on. I'm glad you said that, because of the fact that folks get caught up in guilt or innocence when we're talking about political prisoners. They want to know, well, did he do it and all that type of stuff. And it's important what you're saying. It's like that's beside the point. The deal is that we are at war, and when we're at war, all is fair in love and war, as the state would say.
As a matter of fact, in the trial, I stated that that I fully support armed struggle, and that I wrote songs, and you could hear songs, and we played songs for the jury to listen to. And I think that's one of the things that one of the reasons why I was acquitted, because we raised the argument and we played the music, and they can severally see that the music was revolutionary, and that the music would be inspiring to those involved in revolution, and I completely support it. But because I write the song about it, don't mean that I did it.
Right on, right on. We go definitely salute to Marilyn Buck as well, one of the other co-defendants, who's now an ancestor. For sure. A lot of folks talk about white folks, but she clearly was someone who took that hit rather than flipping the script like so many other folks have done. I wanna jump into H-Rap Brown. You know what I mean? We know him as Imam Jamil Al-Amin because he's one of our personal leaders. But there's some folks who are online right now who may be new to this. They may be apolitical, or they may just might have stumbled across this YouTube channel. Give us a little history on who H-Rap Brown is, or was.
H-Rap Brown is H-Rap Brown was one of the prolific spokesmen during the turbulent years of the 1960s. He was the leader of youth movements. He was an activist from the time he was about 15 or 16 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he became involved with the SNCC organization, Students Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and because he was part of the SNCC organization in Alabama, he became part of he was part of a group that was leading people to register to vote, and also educating them on the vote, not just to register to vote, but also when they registered people to vote, a lot of people who registered to vote were sharecroppers, and they were kicked off. They were kicked off their plantation that they were sharecroppers on, and they lived in tents. The Klan came around. Nobody has to Google the Klan. Everybody know what the Klan is. The Klan would come around and shoot into the tents. These people who were driven out kicked off of where they live because they dared to have the right to vote, and then their lives were threatened. Those who had houses had houses burned down. Wendell Parrish was one, H. Rap Brown, and a brother that we also know, Kwame Ture, known at that time as Stokely Carmichael. They became part of an armed contingent that would shoot back at the clown, at the Klan. That was a slip of the tongue when I called them clown.
It worked.
but that was an honest slip of the tongue, So
no
yeah, the Klan would at these innocent people daring to exercise their God-given right, and for that he became as they considered him violence, that he advocated violence because he would say violence is necessary and that violence is as American as cherry pie. But what was demonstrated was not that he was being violent. He was talking about the violence that was being perpetrated.
You're freezing up again, Bilal.
On innocent people to take part in the vote, decide the communities stronger, to protect the farming institutions that were being built around to feed the people. So the voting was directly in return. And this is what H. Rap Brown stood for. And that's why so today he's if you can go to our website, www.eman, get some of the history. There was a webinar that we did about a year and a half ago that went through the complete 16 years old right up until his present situation. And so we won't go into all of that now, but we see is that people voted for a clown, and I purposely got a person. We had a shooting incident took place in our community in March of 2000. That was 21 years ago. The day after the shooting, the night of the shooting incident, the papers were saying that H. Rap Brown was responsible, Imam Jamil was responsible. But we had somebody confess the morning after, 12 hours, and confess. The sound that people voted for, disregarding the history of voting and the history of why we encourage people to vote, to ensure our self-determination. And they voted for this clown who said he didn't want to hear from the person who confessed, that he was going along with what the FBI said, that it was H. Rap Brown. And so he was going along with that, when his job is supposed to be to prosecute and to defend all prosecution situation, and disregard for 21 years. He has disregarded his responsibility. And now the person who's following him, who people voted for, like Imam Jamil, often when he starts to speak, he'll say, "I seek refuge in the law against betrayal and being betrayed into ignorance by others." These are people who have betrayed him. If you don't study the history of our freedom fighters, and you don't study the history of our struggle for self-determination, and you don't understand it, you will betray it. Just as Paul Howard has betrayed it, Fannie Lewis is continuing to betray it, and many people who get into this voting thing are betraying it. Voting is a tool. That's what Imam Jamil that time known as H-Rap Brown. That's what he was known for, teaching that voting was a tool and teaching people how to use that tool to secure our self-determination, not just vote as if the voting itself, made you free, as if that's what was. And so we're trying to encourage people to understand who he is and what he stood for, and also in terms of rap, his name was Rap, and because he could explain things in as few words as possible, point across to many people, and as few words as possible. So he was given the name Rap, and he says to a lot of people who are that if they strutting and swagging like all they claim, how come the game ain't in your name? He's saying the game is in his name. He is Rap. He is the one that rapped to the people and made them understand what voting was for, and they the ones who have betrayed it. And so this is who he is. We ask people to please go to that website, www.imamjamilaction.org. And there's another website that we encourage people to go to that's established by his son, Kyrie Al-Amin, who was an attorney, who was 13 years old when this incident happened, but just a few years ago passed the bar, and he's the attorney fighting on behalf of his father today. And that website is, www.whathappenedtorap.com. And you use the number 2, www.whathappened2rap.com. And Rap Brown was, and his transformation, becoming a Muslim leader, becoming a community leader, and the things that he has continued to do continued to stand for that from the time he was 15 until now. He's a long period of standing for something. So we give you information on these two websites. Not that that's the only place, but since we're talking about those two websites, so you can study about him and study about the struggle for self-determination, and study how Islam is used, and organizing under the banner of Islam is used in the struggle for self-determination.
You were going in and out. If you could give those websites once again, you have whathappenedtorap.org, number 2, whathappenedtorap.org, and what was the other one? It was the Imam Jamil.
Yeah. .com. Yeah. Okay. Now you're going in and out. I don't know if
I'm
going in and out. Yeah. The site I gave, .org.
Okay. So what we'll do?
The second one is whathappenedtorap.com.
Okay, no doubt. So what we'll do is we're actually going to post it on the video once the video is wrapped up, so folks can revisit it. For those of you who are not familiar, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly H-Rap Brown, when he established the community masjid in the west end of Atlanta, he actually cleaned up that community, and there was a lot of crime and it was drug infested and all types of nonsense going on. And he absolutely came in and cleaned it up and made it a safe neighborhood while he was in the area. So definitely, we want to support Imam Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H-Rap Brown. And, we'll include his address because of the fact that it's good for folks to write him right all political prisoners, because of the fact that it's necessary for all political prisoners to know that that we're still out here fighting on their behalf. You good, Bilal? Bilal, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool in the game. So yeah, we're gonna have you back on
You're breaking up.
Yeah, we're gonna have you back on at a later date. One of the things that we had Kyrie on our other show, Renegade Coaching. So that's in the archive. So folks definitely, be on the lookout for another session with Baba Bilal. Thank you, Ibrahim. Imam Jamil Action Network on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, definitely follow Imam Jamil Action Network. That to stay in tune with what's going on. Any closing words or anything you'd like the people to know, Bilal?
Yeah, we had a forum last week in Washington, D.C. It was held in Washington, D.C., but we used the same platform, StreamYard, and we had the forum was called Community Under Siege, where we talked about how the U.S. government has had the community under siege through various programs, various police efforts of actually turning the police into a local military unit. It's like the police is actually being run by the Pentagon. They got the same equipment, they got the same communications equipment, and they get the same orders, and they attack viciously just as they do around the world. And we talked about how many of our political prisoners are under attack. And when we had a session on internationalizing the struggle, where we talked about, I had Brother Jalil Muntaqeen, who many of you are aware of, who just got out of jail after serving nearly 50 years. He was the spearheader of a campaign called the Spirit of Mandela campaign, and that campaign has developed into, now we're having a tribunal where the United States is to be charged with violations of our human rights, the human rights of our prisoners, as well as the human rights of our population. And that's going to be October 22nd to the 24th. And we had another very exciting session of that forum too. Was called the freeing of our political prisoners as a down payment on reparations. So we say that people are now starting to talk about reparations, but we say you can't even talk to us if you can't put a down payment down. And the down payment is not no lump of cash, it's not a check, it's the freeing of our political prisoners. Freeing our political prisoners will give us a basis on which to talk to you if you're serious about ending this beef, of setting and talking some terms about how we can settle this beef between us and them, and how we can move forward peacefully. Then let our political prisoners go. Let our political prisoners go right now, especially immediately. And we're not talking about let them go in a few weeks. If we have to still say this in October, then we will be quite upset, because they are due to be let go. There's people who judges have ordered to be free, and they're not letting them free. This is war. We say the cases that are against our political prisoners are not legal cases. This is the execution of war, and we have to take it on that way. That's why we designed the forum to be that way. And if you go to that website again, www.Imam Jamil Action Network, you can get that whole forum in full. and study that along with studying the history of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, the history of H. Brown. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for having me on. Hope there's some benefit to it.
Absolutely. We appreciate, the works you've done and continue to do. You know what I mean? One thing that I love about you and all our OGs is that there are no, we don't have any movement dropouts. You know what I'm saying? Folks don't just say, I'm going to, bask in the sun and like the war is over or whatever. I want to say rise in power to Romaine Chip Fitzgerald, who just made his transition a few days ago. Yes, that brother served 52 years. 52 years under captivity. You know what I mean? So we will have a tribute for him soon, because of the fact that we're not going to allow our freedom fighters to just just die. You know what I mean? To be caged and then just die, and that's it. We're not going out like that. Stay tuned to Black Power Media, because we're going to have tons of things coming up in regards to political prisoners.
Political prisoners together.
Really? Okay. Back in Soledad or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we were in when I came in Alameda County, and then I went to the reception center at Vacaville. That was September of 1969, and he was locked up then. He was in Vacaville, and then he went on to San Quentin. And I've been out and have been a political prisoner 2 or 3 times, and he's never gotten out. He never got out. He served all that time. He served all that time behind the wall.
Is he like 19 when he 19 when they captured him?
Pardon?
What is he like 19, 20 when they captured him?
Yeah, he was 19 when he was captured.
That's ridiculous. And served 52 years.
Yeah, he was 19 when he was captured. And the
longest serving political prisoner in the United States.
Yeah, 52 years, and a model prisoner, so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's the longest serving Black Panther political prisoner. Political prisoners before the Black Panther Party. We also have Rochelle McGee, who has served close to 60 years, and so we have political. But in terms of the Black Panther Party, the self-defense, Romaine Chip Fitzgerald was the longest held Black Panther political prisoner.
No doubt. So we say Ashe, and we will continue this fight. You know what I mean? And I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. So anyway, again, check out Black Power Media. We have some awesome shows coming up. Tomorrow we have a lineup with Dr. Jared Ball. I Mix What I Like. Also, the Luke Mons will be on tomorrow. Dr. CBS will be on with the Last Open Intellectual Show. Renegade Culture will be airing tomorrow as well at 9 p.m. That's going to be our new time as well. So make sure you continue to support Black Power Media. We appreciate all of you for coming on board. Thank you, Baba Bilal, for joining us today. And this won't be the last time. And we'll be seeing you soon, seeing the whirlwind. All right. Free them all. Free all political prisoners. We out. Thank you for coming on.
All right.
Peace.
Free them all.
Yes, sir.
All right. Free them all.
All right, free them all, brother.